Over the last 2 years of being a founder, I've had to go through quite a lot of issues in this process of building a startup. So people see this process as something quite interesting, right? So people see it as freedom. Other people see it as just a burden. Some people see it as something they wish they would be able to do sometime in their lifetime. For all of what people think it to be, being in the thick of it and in the middle of it, it all comes down to one word: uncertainty. I'm going to take you through my experience in general. I'm documenting my journey as a whole, and I wish to show what's really going on for the most part, right? In the general nature of like what goes on in day-to-day life of a founder, what we experience or what I experience. Many people build their companies in very different ways, and it's been an interesting journey for me. I've had to learn a lot, and I'm still in the thick of it. So let's start from the beginning, the vision. So in the early years, it's about 2 years ago, I and a friend of mine decided to, now my co-founder, decided to start a business. We wanted to build something small. Yes, at first, something small, something that solved a very simple problem, right? We were getting paid in crypto assets. We wanted to be able to utilize these assets in daily use, right? There were so many platforms around, but there were too many steps that they would usually take to get this utilization out. And this was just the premise of our idea, right? But you see, over time, we developed the first version, right? And this is the thing. We were both technical founders. We were both really good at what we do, right? As engineers. But as a business, things needed to change. In terms of the perspective with which we approached our business development, in terms of how we actually deliver the product, how we actually release it and launch it, so many things had to change in that whole process. We spent a good amount of time learning and we learned a lot, right? There are so many things that we didn't usually want to do, right? We were not really prepared for in terms of marketing, say creating content, letting people know about what you've created and all of that. Our product implementation was quite good. But marketing was where we didn't really have an edge at all. You see, we were at a loss when it came to that. So we needed to start learning, right? And for the most part, most people think that once you just build something and it gets some traction, you're ready to start going to VCs, you're ready to start approaching YC. We thought the same thing too at first. Like, we thought the same thing. We were just throwing out applications out there, but it didn't really click, right? Because first of all, I'm going to come to that. The idea itself was good, but it wasn't a game changer, right? And that is the key thing about startups. Game changers. So you need to build something that's pretty much a game changer, something that pretty much changes the landscape of things. So yes, create things that are going to be game changers, right? You need to start thinking about your ideas in different perspectives, not just the same way you would usually go about or think about things, right? But that said, we learned a lot in that particular process, and this brought us to a point where we had to start acknowledging our shortcomings, right? Knowing fully well that, you're not good at this, or this particular aspect of things, it still eludes you. Okay, you think you're going to be a really good manager, but you have flaws in these certain areas, right? You have to start taking some time to understand that, hey, I need to start learning. And this is where one of the key aspects of this whole process came into play: learning. As engineers, you are taught to learn, right? You are taught to teach yourself things. You watch tutorials to build products, and you think that's the only form of learning sometimes that you have to really undertake. But you have to learn from people. This whole I'm not a people person type thing, it pretty much has to go out the window. You need to start understanding that, hey, I need to be a people person. I need to spend more time with people. I need to understand where people are coming from, right? And yeah, which brings me to our challenges. Okay, so let's talk about the core challenges that we had during this period, right? The first one was overcoming uncertainty. Yeah, I mean, for the most part, we were working our jobs at the time when we started, and we had this thing that we were working on, this idea, right? Obviously, and it took us out of balance. Like, you have to work during the day and work at night, or work in the early mornings and then work, like pretty much working around the clock. Social life for me was non-existent. I mean, even now, it still is. I'm not really fretting about it, but still, I didn't really have much of a social life then, so I don't know why there's even much of a complaint. But I'm just saying that we had to really take things around the clock. And that said, it comes with some certain level of uncertainty, right? I remember leaving my previous roles, and I remember at one time getting laid off, right? It was hectic, to say the least, but we strove through that. If this teaches me anything about uncertainty, is that you just take it one day at a time, right? At some point, I didn't even live for today or for the day. I was pretty much always living for like the next day, right? Or rather for the moment, pretty much. Yeah, I was living for the moment. I was just taking every issue one step at a time. Okay, so after we finish this, what's next? We are doing this. Okay, after finishing this component, what next? We are doing that. And just that mentality really helped me like move through things a bit more smoothly, right? It was never ever going to be smooth. It was never going to be any sort of soft landing anywhere, right? But we started making income, right, from the projects. From the startup. And there came a time whereby we had to pretty much escalate things, right? With the need to grow also comes the need to expand, right? The need to improve and all of that. So yeah, that was a struggle too. Yeah. So the next phase that really was of great challenge at the time, right, was building the right team. Now there's a lot of air here. I like it. I don't know how it sounds, but yeah, building the right team. It was fun, right, for the most part. Working as a two-man team, just I and my co-founder. We are both technical. We both understand the process of building software. But then, business is more than just two people, right? It's more than just two, and we needed to learn to collaborate with others, right? And at this point, it came down to learning when to let go of certain things, right? Equity, stake, bringing on new partners, working with the right people, having a sense of discernment for character, right? All of these things we needed to actually learn them. It was difficult at first. We had to learn to cooperate with other ideologies and coexist, right? But it was also interesting because we needed to anticipate where we had faults, where we had issues, where we would not be able to cover ground, right? And have people that can pretty much do the things that we can't. For example, like I mentioned earlier, we weren't good at marketing. Neither of us were good at marketing, and we needed to learn to let that go, right? And find the right people who would actually engage with our ideas as well as we see them. Yeah. And with this came the next aspect of things, right? And this also ties in with the finding the right people part, because they help you enhance the vision. Doing this much, right? Okay, I think I'm protecting my mic as best as I can, right? So, of course, the right people help you enhance your vision. They help you enhance your ideas. They bring something to the table that you don't have, and you have to recognize that you don't have this thing. You can't create it for yourself. Even if you could, right, you need to be able to let it go and focus on what you're good at, so that you can actually add the most to your team in the best way you know how to, right? So yeah, this ties into the next aspect of things pretty much, right? Which is the pivot. The wind is much. I'm going. So as it turns out, I have to head out. I'm going for a biker event, right? Pretty much my biker graduation. I'm supposed to be there. So I'll finish this. Okay, so now let's talk about pivoting. Now the interesting thing is I'm still in the middle of the process when it comes to pivoting, and it's not something I can fully deliberate on or like discuss on in detail as at the moment, but I will talk about the generalities of what goes into it, right? First of all, you take a step back as a company, you look at everything that has been happening, right? And you decide, are the customers really looking for this product? Do they really want what we are creating? Are they really interested in this particular solution, right? Like, do they find this as a critical use case, right? Also, you look at your direction. You might be having good customers, a good amount of traction. It's a good business, right? But you want to build something else. You want to build $1 million business. You want to build that edifice. And you are thinking to yourself, would this product get us there? Right? That's when you do consider a pivot. Now, also you do this in cases whereby you are like losing money. You want to make sure that you preserve your funds pretty much, right? And in our case, I can't speak to that yet. We've looked generally at our customer base. We want to build something that actually changes the world. And we decided that, okay, you know what? Yeah, it's time to move on to a more advanced project. It's time to move on to a more useful tool. And yeah, we're currently undergoing a pivot. So, what does that come with? Well, the issues with startups generally, or that founders experience, it all comes down mostly to doubt, right? Dealing with self-doubt, dealing with how people see you, right? Dealing with how you see yourself and the business that you're creating, and the stress that comes with that, the burden that comes with having to make sure that your team is good, taking care of your employees, and ensuring that the lights are always on. You have to really consider yourself in several ways, right? Like, how do you deal with this? How do you deal with doubt? How do you deal with uncertainty and all of the previous challenges I mentioned before? Well, it all comes down to one word: voting. The beauty of voting is that it's always going to be there. It's always going to be a pattern for you to follow. And we are creatures of habits. We do things usually fell into a fair amount the same process every day, even though you think you are spontaneous, right? Like, you are the traveler, you like to move between different places. If you do that long enough, you start to feel off, right? So you start to want and crave some routine. We always crave routines, right? And take advantage of that. One routine I've actually set up for myself over the past few months that have really saved me in so many different ways. Saved me mental space, saved me clarity, has been my morning routine. You wake up in the morning, you pick up a book. In my own case, I wake up, I pick up whatever book is on my shelf, and I read. Not for a certain amount of time, just 10 pages or one chapter. Currently, I'm going with the one chapter vibe. I really like it, starting something and finishing it off. If the book is quite big, 10 pages, you have a highlighter, a pen, something, you highlight words, you highlight text, and you come back later to review it, right? But just that process of reading, it takes my mind off the things that I'm supposed to be burdened with, right? It gives me this space to just, step back. And I do this no matter when I wake up. Whether I wake up very early in the morning or whether I wake up a bit later, right? And this space allows me to get some clarity. After that, I could meditate. And meditation has actually been very much helpful. Some people find it, just stressful. I use an app called Tide, and it's available on both Apple and iOS. You can check it out. It's helped me calm myself down, like really get some clarity. And the next step would be to get some form of an early morning workout. After that, then the day gets started. Make a cup of coffee, get into the office. I'm able to take a step back, review on my task list for the day, and then get to work. And just this process as a routine build up this guideline towards getting into flow. And that is the interesting thing. If you follow a particular routine or pattern before you do some type of deep work or some type of work that gets you into flow, or some type of activity that requires your concentration, your body starts to take notes of these activation points, such that when you just do these certain processes, you just find yourself getting the mentality for flow or the concentration needed to just go into those particular states. It's like Cristiano Ronaldo taking that deep breath that it takes 3, 1, 2, 3, and then that's his stance before every free kick. It's a routine. It gets him into that state of flow. That has really helped me. Secondly is the evening routines, right? If you're thinking, how does this help you with anxiety? It helps your mental state. You need it as a founder, because being a founder is, I don't want to say it's like being a soldier, but it feels more like it. Like every single day, it does feel more and more like you are tasked with creating something that probably doesn't exist before, and make it profitable. There's a lot of strain on you, and therefore you need to take care of yourself in a more deliberate manner than you probably ever had in your entire life. I had to learn this the hard way, and I think I'm still learning it. It's not something that you just jump into. You have to be very deliberate and sometimes very strict about it. Not sometimes, always very strict about it. Strict about your health, strict about your procedure. Because I noticed something. If you don't do that, if you let things move as they would typically flow, everything tends to chaos. And that chaos slowly creeps into your work life. It slowly creeps into your creation. You lose energy when it's most needed. You find yourself unresponsive in times when you are most needed. That isn't good. And when you don't stay on top of things, that is when these particular doubts, this particular uncertainty mentality, these particular issues start to come into play. Right? So, routines. That really did it for me. My evening routines are somewhat similar too. Just that I plan the activities that I'm going to do the next day within my evening routines. There are also the weekly routines, also the monthly routines, and also the yearly routines. The beauty of being a founder, you slowly become more of a systematic machine. You have systems for everything, even systems for creating content, right? Because you are forced to think about things in terms of systems, and it helps you ensure some level of quality to your process generally. So, I'm still in the thick of things, right? And my journey is still ongoing. I'm not some tech millionaire or something like that, but I have a strong amount of inclination that I'll be. It's part of the process. You have to believe yourself, because no one else will actually believe you. So, with that said, that brings me to the end of this particular video. If you've watched to this very point, I'm impressed. I believe I'll be making more and more videos like this in this particular style, particular fashion. See you soon.